What's up guys, and welcome back to another round of my 2019 F1 modded career mode. Back today for the Belgian Grand Prix, round number 13 here at the famous Spa-Francorchamps circuit. One of my favourite circuits on the calendar, and if you guys do enjoy this circuit as well, make sure to leave a like, because I can assure you we have got an absolutely crazy Belgian Grand Prix coming up for you. It's arguably the most exciting round of the season. I'll leave it at that for the meantime. But getting into today's race, we've got a little bit of bad news on the engine front. Unfortunately, all three of our ICEs are absolutely knackered and we're only at round 13. So I thought it was best to just take a new power unit. Obviously Spa's a track where there's a lot of overtaking opportunities, especially on the Kemmel Straight, and very power dependent circuit. So if we use a bad engine here, it's not going to be great for us. So I thought, you know what, we'll take a new internal combustion engine. And then I looked at our MG UK wear, and we only get 2 allocated of those, and we're at 46% on the second unit already, and we're a little over halfway through the season. So I thought, you know what, we're taking a 10 place hit, we might as well take 20 places. And then when I saw we got 20 places, I thought, you know what, why not just replace everything? MGUH, Energy Store, Turbocharger, Control Electronics, who cares? You know, we've got 60 places worth of grid penalties, we're definitely starting at the back. So that was pretty much a no-brainer. But good news is that we've got a couple of 3 new upgrades this weekend. An engine upgrade, an aerodynamics upgrade, and a durability upgrade. All of which are minor, but when you put them all together, then it's looking pretty good for us. So fingers crossed we can make our way through the field with those. In terms of future upgrades, we've got a couple more that should be with us next time out in Italy, which should be good. And it's looking very good for us on the performance chart at the moment. So if those 2 ones come in next time in Italy, we should overtake Red Bull in the performance chart, which would be very exciting. But for now, we're still the 4th quickest team, but we're pretty much in the mix with the top 3, which is very, very good to see. And I look forward to battling with those top 3 teams between now and the end of the season. So I've pretty much ruined my qualifying result for you by saying that we've taken 60 places worth of grid penalties. But let's take a look now at what the rest of the grid looks like for this Belgian Grand Prix. And it was Sebastian Vettel who took pole just about from his teammate Charles Leclerc in qualifying, with the 2 Mercedes cars tucked in behind of Hamilton and Bottas. I'm sure they'll be lively going into the in the first lap. And then we got Daniel Ricciardo, who stuck it in P5. So the Renault car does have a lot of pace. He's ahead of Gasly and Verstappen, with Perez, Magnussen and Stroll rounding out the top 10. And then we've got the rest of the cars that are just sat outside the top 10 that you'd imagine will be on a slightly different strategy. I'll show you the possible race strategy options in a minute, but these cars that we've got lower down in the grid, we should hopefully clear before too long. And there we've got ourselves sat in P20, our lowest qualifying of the season, quite obviously, and hopefully we won't be there for long. So I spoke briefly there about the race strategy, and as you can see, we are able to do a one-stopper this afternoon because we didn't qualify inside the top 10, so we don't have to start on the tyres that we qualified on. And that means we can start on the harder compound, which is the soft tyre, which isn't confusing at all. But anyway, yeah, we're going to start on the softs and then go onto the mediums about halfway through the race. Tyre degradation shouldn't be too much of a factor for us, hopefully. And I'd like to think that we can make it to the end with just 1 stop. So onto the formation lap we go then, right at the back of the pack. And just a quick side note, you may be able to see in the sort of the replay cameras and in this race that the Haas car, although black and gold, isn't actually the official 2019 livery, because I recorded this race before there was anything available on Race Department to download. But next time out in Monza, I will have that rich energy livery, and the same goes for all other cars. As they're released throughout the course of the next couple of weeks, I will be implementing them into this series. But enough of the talking, and time to get on track now, because we've got 5 red lights here at Spa, and away we go. Reasonably good start, although we get a little bit of wheel spin in the second phase. We're going to commit right to the inside and hopefully grab a couple of positions into turn 1. It's looking very, very dangerous for ourselves, of course, right in the mix of the pack. We don't want any front wing damage on lap 1, and it's looking like a pretty decent start for ourselves. Already up into P16, and now right on the tail of one of the Williams cars. I believe it's Robert Kubica in front of us, and as we now go on to the Camel Straight, surely this is going to be a good opportunity to overtake him, although Kubica is lining up a move on Lando Norris and Kimi Raikkonen. We're pretty much 4 wide going into Les Combes, and we're just going to stick behind for the meantime. We don't want to ruin our race on lap 1. I'm very confident that we've got the pace over these guys, so there's no need to take an unnecessary risk so early on in this Grand Prix. And of course, we're on a better strategy as well than the top 10. So all we've got to do is just try and stay within touching distance of that leading pack, and I've got a lot of confidence that we can be there or thereabouts come the end of the Grand Prix. But yeah, we've stuck behind Robert Kubica as we now go through Pouhon. Not quite flat out at this stage of the race. Of course, we've got a full fuel load and tyres that aren't necessarily fully up to temperature yet. But now we go through the sort of end part of this second sector at Campus, and now on our way to Stavelot to end sector 2. You can see the cars rushing through this section, and that is the section of track really where the Williams is very much exposed, so we could stay very, very close to Robert Kubica through the second sector, and now we can really open the taps as we nearly go down the inside of Kubica into the first part of Blanchimont, but now we go into turn 18, the second part of that famous turn, and now into the bus stop chicane. We dive down the inside of Robert Kubica, although he's still going to be there, and he's going to have the inside into the second part of the chicane, but as we come out the final corner, a little bit of opposite lock. Doesn't matter too much because we are up into P15 and what has been a pretty successful lap 1 in this Grand Prix. We've got no front wing damage, and we sat 5 places higher than where we started. But now we're going to take a look at what happened right at the front. So of course, as I mentioned, it is an all Ferrari front row with Sebastian Vettel leading them away, but Vettel locked up into turn 1 and Leclerc went straight into the back of Vettel and is now left with only half a front wing. So we're going to take a look at it from Vettel's perspective. He just completely locked up, and there you can see the debris from Leclerc's car. So Charles Leclerc is actually leading this Belgian Grand Prix, but only has, well, he doesn't have a full front wing. So this is going to be very, very interesting. And now we go and look at that battle for the lead on lap 2 of this Grand Prix. And Lewis Hamilton, who managed to get ahead of Sebastian Vettel at the start, is now right on the gearbox of the second Ferrari. Leclerc really, really struggling for grip in the high-speed corners. Of course, it's really going to punish you if you don't have a full front wing, and that is a very, very easy move for Lewis Hamilton, who moves up into the lead of this Grand Prix. He started in P3, but he's now leading the way, and Leclerc is now holding up his teammate Sebastian Vettel, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, and how much of the responsibility that Sebastian Vettel will claim for that incident down into La Source, which of course always produces some very interesting lap 1s. 2018 and 2012 both spring to mind straight away. But now Sebastian Vettel goes around the outside of his younger teammate, and it's going to be carnage as they go towards the bus stop chicane, because we've now got Valtteri Bottas who's trying to overtake the Monegasque driver into the bus stop chicane. They go, a big lock-up for Valtteri Bottas, which will do his tyres no good, but he gets up into P3, and now we go slightly further back on board with ourselves, because we're still in P15, but we're eyeing up a move on Lando Norris and possibly Kimi Raikkonen into the bus stop, and we get ahead of Norris in the first stage of the chicane. Not quite close enough to Kimi Raikkonen as of yet, but we get good traction off the final corner, and we are up into P14 now as DRS is enabled on lap 3, which should help us a lot. Although Kimi Raikkonen looks as if he's close enough to Carlos Sainz up ahead for him to get DRS. It's going to be borderline though for the Finn, as now we go past the DRS detection point. We're very, very much within sight. But now we go back to the battle up at the front, and our teammates, Daniel Ricciardo gets past Charles Leclerc for P4. Leclerc makes a bit of contact with our Australian teammates, and Leclerc's race is just going from bad to worse. I mean, it was a very good start, of course. He got into P1, but I think he knew as soon as that front wing came off that it wasn't going to be the best of afternoons, and he's already down into P5 on lap 3. As now we go slightly back on board with ourselves, looking for a move for P13 as we go side by side with Kimi Raikkonen, and we look to breeze past the 38-year-old or 39-year-old. I can't even remember how old he is. Probably should know that, but regardless, we breeze past Kimi Raikkonen for P13 in this Grand Prix, as now Charles Leclerc loses yet another position, this time I believe to Pierre Gasly. It's definitely one of the Red Bull drivers, and there's another one prowling behind. So it's just a huge, huge queue of cars, and we are actually right at the back of this train. So Leclerc very much played us in to contention in this Grand Prix, but hopefully he doesn't sort of hold the pack up too much, so that the front five don't get too detached at this early stage of the race. But this is going to be chaos, as there's cars queuing up to get past Charles Leclerc. We've got Max Verstappen on the outside. It looks as if that's Sergio Perez on the inside. They go 3 wide into Blanchimont, and then Max Verstappen runs wide. He's off the circuit, and we've got yellow flags out as Verstappen sustained quite a lot of damage, I think. And yes, sure enough, we've got a safety car deployed as we nearly go into the back of Carlos Sainz, because he slowed down so much there. But we're going to take a look at a replay of what happened in the carnage on the run down to Blanchimont, and we've got this interesting camera angle where you can really see what happened. So they try and go 3 wide, Perez backs out, and then Leclerc just understeers, I think, with him of course having not a full front wing, just understeers. And then we've got Max Verstappen, who has to of course come into the pit lane with damage, but we've also got Kevin Magnussen, who's just sort of stranded in the middle of the circuit. You may have been able to see him there, so that was a bit of an interesting one. But now we've got the safety car out. Came out on lap 3 of the Grand Prix, and that has very much bunched the pack back together. So Leclerc is still very much in the pack, but the front runners, so you've got Hamilton in P1, Vettel in P2, they've squeezed up to the rest of the pack now, and the same goes for Valtteri Bottas, who sat in P3. So it's been a pretty good start for Mercedes, despite starting in 3rd and 4th. And then we've got our teammate Daniel Ricciardo sat in P4, with Pierre Gasly sat in 5th. Finally being released from the reins of that man, Charles Leclerc, who's in P6. Has caused plenty of carnage so far. And then we've got Romain Grosjean, Carlos Sainz, and ourselves in behind. So it's been a brilliant start for us in this Grand Prix. It's exactly what we wanted, just a bit of carnage to spice things up. And just like that, we're up in P9 at the end of lap 6. And that is with being under safety car for just over 3 laps, which is pretty insane. But now we are going to green flag conditions here at Spa, and into the final corner. We're going to take a look at up the inside of Sainz. It would have been fair and legal if we'd have got past him. And there you can see Kevin Magnussen is still stranded by the pit lane. Pretty odd to see. But nonetheless, we're just going to continue with our race at the start of lap 7. So we didn't manage to get past Carlos Sainz at the bus stop chicane. And of course, there's going to be no DRS active, seeing as the safety car has only just come in. We're going to have to wait another couple of laps for that. But regardless, I've got a lot of confidence that our engine is a lot stronger than the McLaren's at this stage of the season, despite us starting with identical power units at the start of the season in Australia. And now we're going to go for a move down the inside of Carlos Sainz, and Leclerc has been overtaken by Grosjean, but there's contact between the two of them, and we've got into the side of Charles Leclerc, the man who's caused so much carnage this afternoon. And he's also run into Lando Norris, who's sustained damage by the looks of it. But we have got a big part of our front wing end plates which is absent now. That's not going to help us one bit. We've lost a couple of positions to Lando Norris and Daniel Kvyat. We have got past Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz as well has just gone straight down the road, so he somehow managed to avoid the incident. And now we're going to take a look at a replay of exactly what happened. So it was Grosjean trying to go around the outside. Leclerc just tried to stick it in there for too long, and we just got unlucky. Sainz, you can see, just about getting past. And then Leclerc just sort of plants it in the middle of the road and goes into Norris. So we just got unlucky there. You know, we could have been in Sainz's position and just gone around the outside, but you know, you just don't know. You just don't know. I didn't anticipate Leclerc spinning round, and it's just wrong place, wrong time for us, which is bitterly disappointing. But now we're going to take a look at what is happening at the front, because there is still a battle for the lead of this Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton barely ahead of Sebastian Vettel, although I believe that the front runners are scheduled to come into the pits at the end of this lap. So Hamilton comes into the pit lane, but it's being blocked. He can't get in. We've got Kevin Magnussen, who is pulled across the pit lane. I said about him earlier on, and look at this. What is going on right now? You can see 5 cars now 6 as Leclerc's coming into the pit lane, just completely backed up. Meanwhile, we have been overtaken by Kimi Raikkonen due to the fact that we haven't got a full front wing on show. And as we come around the final corner, we can now see the carnage that is going off. And the cars are just stopped there. Absolutely unbelievable. As Kevin Magnussen is finally disqualified, which you'll be able to see now. He'll just sort of disappear in a minute. And you can see him just trying to manoeuvre around. Absolutely bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. And although he's been disqualified, you can see him ghosting there. Hamilton still can't get into the pit lane. He's trying to steer all over the place. And this is one of the most bizarre things I think I've ever seen on an F1 game. Especially career mode as well. I was just recording it as normal. And you get that thrown at you. Absolutely unbelievable scenes as Charles Leclerc is now disqualified. Daniel Ricciardo, our teammate, is disqualified. Everybody that was in that pile-up. Pierre Gasly disqualified. As we've got Kimi Raikkonen looking for a move on Lando Norris now. Valtteri Bottas disqualified. All of these drivers out of the Grand Prix. The ones that were leading. Sebastian Vettel out of this Grand Prix. And the numbers just increased. The only one that actually hasn't been disqualified is Lewis Hamilton. The man that sort of not instigated it, because it was Kevin Magnussen that instigated it. But the man that was at the front of the queue is still there. He's still stuck. Somehow he hasn't been disqualified. I don't quite know why the others were and he wasn't. But nonetheless, that has left us in P6 in this Grand Prix. And Lando Norris up ahead in P5. He was overtaken by Kimi Raikkonen a couple of laps ago. But now he is next on our agenda to overtake. We should be able to get DRS on him as we now go up Eau Rouge and Radion, whatever they are. Don't really care. Please don't let me know in the comments. But we've got past Lando Norris nonetheless and up in to P5. And now we're going to chase down Kimi Raikkonen once again as we actually go purple through Sector 1. But this race, all of a sudden, after starting in P20, we're sitting in a legitimate P5 at not even half race distance. And now we're going to take a look at exactly what Lewis Hamilton is doing. He's still not been disqualified at the end of lap 9. And one of the Toro Rosso drivers, I can't make out who it is, it's Daniel Kvyat, is trying to come into the pit lane. And we thought about going into the pits on lap 9, and then we thought against it. And we've just got car after car trying to come into the pit lane. Is it ever going to end? Is this ever going to end? Or is there just constantly going to be a car blocking the pit lane? I've just skipped forward a little bit of time, and you can see cars starting to disappear. So it seems that the car that's blocking the pit lane is the only one that doesn't tend to get disqualified, although Magnussen did eventually get disqualified. So, you know, the penalty system on this game just continues to baffle me. And time goes by, you know, we've still got cars disappearing all over the shop as I fast forward, just see what is going on, just what is happening. And then we fast forward another lap, lap 10, and they're still there. They're still there. Now it's Carlos Sainz who is trying to get into the pit lane, as is Sergio Perez by the looks of it. No can do. I'm afraid you're not allowed in the pit lane, lads. You just can't do that. And just what is going on? Kvyat can't drive anywhere. It's just carnage. It is just carnage. That is all I can describe this as. No words. No words. Just what is happening on the screen right now. As we've got a Williams car, and actually one of the Toro Rossos, by the looks of it, Daniel Kvyat, I think reversed onto the track. So he's back up and running, which is interesting. Very interesting. And we are leading this Grand Prix. But we've got Sergio Perez now, who is going to go side by side with us and try and overtake us. So it looks as if he's done so. And we think, you know what, we're just going to have to come into the pit lane and show him who's boss. So we just crash into Romain Grosjean, which gets him out of the way. I thought, you know what, we might as well, because we've already got end plate damage, so they're going to replace the front wing anyway. We might as well just bash into the car that's blocking our entry. Quite why the AI didn't think of that. Codemasters, you've got to program something like that in, you know. What can I say? Hire me. I'll tell you what to do. That's a joke. Please don't hire me. I probably won't be able to do anything. But anyway, back to the action. That was a very random ramble. A 8.7 second pit stop. And now we're on the medium tyres at half race distance. So it wasn't really too much of an issue going half the race on the soft tyres, so I can't imagine it'll be much of an issue on the mediums. As now we've got a virtual safety car deployed, it's about time. I mean, we've got absolute carnage in the pit lane. Charlie Whiting, what are you thinking at this point, mate? But as we look at the running order, we've got Max Verstappen sat ahead of us in P2 because he pitted on the very first lap, if you remember, and the same for Sergio Perez. Sorry, not the very first lap, it was lap 3, wasn't it, where those two came to blows with Charles Leclerc, the man who seems to be responsible for all of this carnage in this Grand Prix. So they pitted on lap 3, fitted the soft tyres, which means on lap 12 they are due to come in for their second and final pit stop. But the question is, can they get into the pit lane? Because there is still a Carlos Sainz blocking the pit lane. And Sergio Perez tries to get into the pits, but no, Carlos won't let him. To be fair, Perez even tried to get in, and he still couldn't. The same for Max Verstappen. This is just the most bizarre Grand Prix. I'm not sure what I'm watching. You guys, if you've never watched one of my videos before, must be thinking, what the hell is this guy making videos on? And you'd be quite right to think so. But we sweep through the final corner to take the lead of this Belgian Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz finally gets disqualified. Can Sergio Perez actually make it into the pit lane? That is the big question. Or is he going to get disqualified too? As you can see, Sainz is ghosted, which means he's been disqualified. And Perez, he just can't do it. Poor lad. And now we've got another one of the Toro Rossos trying to get into the pits. No can do, mate. No can do. We've got a big queue, and none of them are able to get into the pits. We now skip onto lap 15 of this Grand Prix. We are leading the way by 42 seconds. Yes, we started this Grand Prix in last, and we are leading from Lance Stroll by 42 seconds. Stroll sitting in a comfortable P2 by the looks of it at the moment. And in third, we've got a Williams of Robert Kubica. The man, of course, making his real-life comeback in the 2019 season. And then in P4, I believe that is Alexander Albon in the Toro Rosso. So that's going to be some good points for them. Followed by Romain Grosjean in P5. And then, behind him, we've got that man. Max Verstappen still struggling to do anything. Poor lad just wants to try and get into the pit lane, but his AI just isn't letting him, which is a shame. How long he's going to be there for, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But now on lap 15 of this Grand Prix, later on in lap 15, we are coming up to the rear of Romain Grosjean, who we are getting ready to lap, in fact, which is pretty bizarre considering Grosjean was side by side with us on the track when we crashed with Leclerc. So, yeah, funny how things work out as we actually set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on lap 15. And we're going to stay on board throughout the course of lap 16 because this was the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So as we now come up through Radion and on to the Camel Straight, we have got DRS on the Haas driver. So we're going to get in his slipstream, go around the outside, and that is a very, very good sector 1. 0.6 of a second quicker than anything we've produced before. And as now we come through Les Combes and through to Bruxelles at turn 10. The most understeery corner on the Formula 1 calendar. We have really, really got this car hooked up. We're over 40 seconds ahead, and I thought at this point, you know what, we're just going to have a bit of fun as we go through No Name and towards Pouhon on this fastest lap of the Grand Prix. This is where I was just sort of thinking, you know what, this is basically just time trial for 6 laps. Make sure I don't crash the thing, first and foremost, but I just thought, might as well try and stick in a fastest lap, and it felt oh so good around this Spa-Francorchamps circuit. So now we go into Stavelot to end the second sector, and this is where we pretty much just open the taps. We're purple through sector 2 once again. And as we come through towards Blanchimont now on lap 16, using a lot of ERS on this lap as well, just to try and get the fastest lap possible, using Rich Mix, overtake ERS, and coming into the bus stop chicane now, getting it turned in nicely. Still see a Max Verstappen waiting in the pit lane for us, and as we come past the start finish line, that is a 1:47.3, the fastest lap of the Belgian Grand Prix. And to be honest, nothing else really troubled me for the rest of the time. I pretty much took it easy, tried to save a little bit of our engine, because of course we've had troubles with it so far this season. So just making sure to shift up early and not doing too much damage to our internal combustion engine. And as we come through the final corner, in the most bizarre circumstances, we have gone from P20 up to P1, and we come to win our second race of the season here in Spa. A little bit of a hollow victory, but it's 25 points nonetheless. And what a Grand Prix I have just witnessed. It's another victory for Renault. That'll do us a lot of good in the Constructors' Championship. And Cyril Abiteboul looked very baffled there, as we are on the top step of the podium. We're the race winner. Absolutely unbelievable. And I found this quite amusing. Max Verstappen getting out of his car and celebrating P6, considering he didn't even make it to the finish line. But there we can see the celebrations have started down at Renault, and we get our second big trophy of the season, and they'll celebrate that a lot down in the Enstone factory. Lance Stroll, shout out to him, getting P2, and Robert Kubica, he did come home to finish in P3, would you believe it? We will take a look at the full race standings right about now. So yeah, we took victory by 46 seconds from Lance Stroll, with Robert Kubica over a minute behind, Alexander Albon in 4th, Romain Grosjean laps in P5, and Max Verstappen, who just completed just over half race distance, managed to score points in P6. And Antonio Giovinazzi, whose engine blew up, I think, at the end of the safety car period, managed to get points despite not finishing, and then everybody else got 0 points because they were all disqualified. So Perez, despite him being classified in 8th, didn't get any points because he got disqualified. The same goes for everybody else. And just what a bizarre Grand Prix. I blame Charles Leclerc and Kevin Magnussen personally. But, you know, I'm not complaining, because we've moved up ahead of Max Verstappen in the standings as well. Believe it or not, one of the people who actually scored points, I've moved above, into P5 in the drivers' standings. We've closed the gap. Who knows, maybe a late championship challenge. I think that's too much to ask for, but can you imagine the scenes if, you know, the 25 points from this propelled us towards the drivers' standings. Renault closing up to Red Bull in P3. I've got a lot of faith in us, actually, in the second half of the season, that we can close that gap to Red Bull and finish in P3. Second and first they're just not going to happen, so we're not going to pretend like we're going to catch them. But finally, just take a look at this. This was what the race director looked like. So if you want to look at exactly what penalties each driver got, feel free to pause now. But I think I counted 90 something. I believe there was over 90 incidents on the race director, which is something I have never seen the like of before, and I feel like I won't see the like of again. It just keeps going and going and going. Verstappen, illegal blocking, still somehow managed to finish the race. But guys, if you enjoyed this bizarre Belgian Grand Prix, do make sure to leave a like down below. It will help me a lot. And just let me know down in the comments if any of you have ever seen anything like this before, because I certainly haven't. But until next time, at the Italian Grand Prix, I'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.